Hello, everyone, and welcome to Not the Newsletter Show. It's our show where we talk about cybersecurity, AI, and other technology. We are here with Robert Fleischmann from CLR, Christian Life Resources today. I've known Bob for a very long time, and I'm excited to have him on the show today. So we have a lot of awesome and wonderful things to talk about, Bob. But what is your role at Christian Life Resources, and what you want to just tell us about yourself a little bit?
Well, I came to CLR in 1983 as a volunteer, just serving on the board of directors, and then in 1988 they brought me on board as the national director, and I've been in that position ever since. So I've been around long enough to see all sorts of changes and the work we do and the equipment we use to do the work that we do.
But you've always been into technology, right? Like, I feel like...
Yeah, when I was in high school, and so we're talking between 1970 and 74, the big deal was cassettes, and little audio cassettes. And I was happy as a pig in slop. I had this recorder, and it had an ALC button, which was automatic level control. Okay. So I would record music off the radio or something, push that button, so that it was always nice and even, and felt like I was super tech, And then, but I started using computers already in 1979. Okay. And back then the floppies were like 8 inches. Yeah. Yeah, they were actually floppy, right? They really were floppy.
Because the next set of floppies with the 3.5 inch or something were they were pretty rigid.
They went from 8 to 5 1/4.
Okay.
And then the 5 1/4 is what I had when I bought my first computer. Okay. Up from 79 to 83, I just used other people's other companies' computers, but then I bought my own.
Nice. And those were always hilarious because if you wanted to actually install something, it was like 9 of them, right? I always remember that. If it was like, you wanted to install Word or something like that, and you just got a box, and it was like a Christmas present. You'd have like disk 1, disk 2, please insert the next one, and they made a wonderful noise. So obviously technology has changed a lot in that time. We've known each other for like 20 years. I was trying to think the other day how long it's been, plus or minus 6 months or something. It's been a long time. How have you seen technology change in just even those 20 years?
Well, it's been remarkable, although I was thinking about it on the drive down here because I had to call the John Deere implement dealer because I've got a new lawn tractor coming. And every time I would tell it to call John Deere, it was calling like 4 other different people that I did not want to call. So some things haven't improved, but
sure, it just called some random John in your phone book.
Yep, it was. It was calling just about any John I had on my list. But in the work that we do at CLR, we've used technology. First of all, maybe in website.
Okay. Yeah.
Just in websites, I just remember the old rule used to be in website that when you created a web page, your screens were running 640 by 480 pixels. And so you wanted all of your important clickable material in that top screen. So everything was supposed to be there. And the other emphasis was you click only once. You want to try to make it only one click. Yep. Both of those rules are history. Yeah. Nobody's paying attention to that anymore.
Yeah, but some of those things I think are true. I've reviewed some websites for people recently where everything's gone so mobile focused that the desktop experience, the laptop experience, no longer is even the top of mind, I guess.
Right.
Where it's all in these, it's just one big sort of scrollable page. There's not even a menu anymore. You have to click the 3 radio buttons to get to a menu. And I'm just like, this feels weird. I feel like we could still do some things with that. We know people still have computers and laptops. And so, yeah, it's a strange time.
Well, and it is, there was a time, one of the phases that was occurring maybe, I don't know, a dozen years ago or so is, you might recall, the word was, websites are going away. Everything's going to be social media, sure. Facebook and everything. And that never proved out. No. Website's still there. We still use it. But everything had to be dynamic. So in other words, you had to be able to pull it up on your phone, right? Yeah. Or tablet. And so we use it that way. And the clickable thing, the other thing that I think I'm looking for it to come, and I think it's coming, but it's not here yet, is much more voice directed. In other words, where I just talk to it and it does it. And I've tried it. I use voice recognition software on occasion. Yep. And it's much better than it was, 20 years ago when I would first buy those first hard copies that would come to you in multiple discs. And but it's much better, but still not there yet.
And I think the thing I've thought about too is I don't think we enunciate that well. So if you and I'm trying probably harder now that I'm on a microphone and whatever, but you don't really listen to your self talk. Like if we were just hanging out and talking, be like, hey, let's go to the thing. We're gonna just do this thing some other day, and you're just like, what was the? If you just listen to that back and you're a computer, there's just a whole bunch of things that seem stacked together. And at no point was I like, hey Bob, let us go over to that store and get that lunch. So and you have to sort of the computer learning or those models, I think, need you to be like specific on how you say things, or it's just going to have to think of something and make it up.
In those in the early programs, you sounded very much like you were reading a child's book.
Yeah.
Like I would dictate a letter and,
sure.
Dear Chris, comma, new paragraph. And it was laborious.
But I still think if you speak that well and enunciate, you're just going to get a much better result still.
Yep.
Because you do that with texting or with sending emails or whatever, and then you look at the thing afterwards, you're like, I don't think I said any of those things. It's just not even close, right? And then you say it again, and just that like, tell my wife I am on my way home, and we'll grab pizza on the way, and then it's just like perfect, right? And so it does feel like there's maybe some spots to go there yet, but
we've had a lot of humor in the office because my staff is all in their early 30s.
Sure.
In the 30s,
yeah,
maybe one or two are in their 40s now, but they're all young. So the way that they text me and stuff is they'll pick up their phone, they'll talk to me,
yeah,
and it still comes out sometimes laughably embarrassing.
They just send it anyway because it's funny, and they're just yeah. I'm tempted sometimes. I like to be specific, so I don't like grammatical errors, I don't like spelling errors. So when I see them, I'm like, ugh, it makes my brain hurt a little. But sometimes if they're hilarious enough, I'll just send it because it's just like so far from anything that makes any sense even, and you're just like, my wife is going to love this, like go. And then you just get the sort of like question mark after that, and you're like, yeah, sorry.
Well, and I made the mistake of teaching my parents how to do that. And so my dad's 89, my mom's 86, and right now they're in Iowa, and my father went and texted me something humorous about mowing the lawn because we don't have a lawnmower right now, and about how I should just get out there with the hand clippers.
There you go.
But he's getting adept at this, and so it makes it kind of humorous.
So what got you into technology? Obviously, you took over CLR a while ago. Technology wasn't really that integrated into what you did probably at that point, right?
No, we maintained a database. For us was a spreadsheet, and it was a precursor to Excel.
Sure.
And then
was it like Access? Probably even before that, right?
Before that, it was a non-Microsoft product. And then I remember when we would do a fundraiser mailing, we used to really advance in technology. We'd print off this whole thing on a dot matrix printer, all these labels, and then you could peel them off one at a time, put them on envelopes. And then, when technology came along, our first computer at CLR was a CP/M based computer. Okay. It was a K-Pro 10, and they used to be called luggables. They were like carrying around a huge, heavy metal suitcase.
Sure.
And then it would start going around. When I think the first big change came when we went from monochrome screens to color screens.
Okay.
And I remember sounding like an old guy back then, going, "Why do I need all the colors? I mean, we don't need the colors. We can read this." Well, then pretty soon, that's all you could get.
Sure. Yeah. But I felt like you were sort of technology focused from from the clients that we had and people we were involved in at that time. I feel like you were more technology focused than other people.
I figured it saved me money.
So that was the goal. It wasn't that you were into technology. It was like, from a business perspective, it was just like, hey, I know this is better than.
Oh yeah. I mean, you look at, we have just look at the database. Our database has about 45,000 names on it. Okay. If we did it the old way, I'd have to have a department of 3, 4, 5 people. Now I don't have any department. We all have access to the database. We all maintain it.
Right.
But technology for me was it was both cost effective and it was fun.
Okay.
I like to tell the story when we built a church in 1983 or 1986. We built the church up in Plymouth, Wisconsin, and they opened up the usher station, and there were all of these knobs and everything. And my father said to the head usher, "You let my son be involved with this," because I always liked buttons and pushing things and stuff. So I think I had an interest back from when I was a child.
Sure.
But as from a business perspective, without a doubt, you can do it quicker, faster, and as you know, I utilize AI.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that actually as sort of a shift there. Have you seen even more recently things like AI
Oh yeah,
become valuable?
I started off with ChatGPT, and then Bard, which became Gemini. I'm a big fan of Perplexity, even though Perplexity just got panned. Forbes does not like Perplexity. But what I like about Perplexity is, the problem I have, I'm also an instructor. I teach bioethics and biotechnology at Concordia.
Okay.
And one of the things I tell my students is you're permitted to use AI, but I want to see actual sources. I don't want to see, don't tell me Wikipedia told you this, which is not AI, but don't tell me Wikipedia told this, or don't tell me you got it from Gemini or something like that. I want to know the source.
Sure.
And so what Perplexity does is that they footnote a lot of what they do. So you can hover over, you can click on the footnote, and then you can put it into your own words, that kind of stuff. And that's important for me because, when I research bioethical issues, I need to know, if it's just somebody ranting, if it's an opinion, or if there's research behind it. And so AI has allowed me to do that. AI also allows me to word things better.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is AI isn't necessarily even coming up, based on what you're saying, AI isn't necessarily even coming up with anything. It's just taking things that it can find and sort of maybe trying to put some of it together in a unified thought and then give that to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Which is fine. That's what I want.
Right. And that's, I think the idea of what AI is that people think, though, I think people think that there's this computer that is a human being somewhere that has come up with the ideas. It went itself and read the books that we're asking it for a book report on, and then it comes up with the good ideas, right? And that just isn't what's happening.
Well, I'll give you an example. Bard became Gemini.
Yeah. And
when Bard became Gemini, they announced the latest iteration of it, and they said, well, what it's going to do now is it can handle debate. It can handle, well, of course, that's like right up my alley.
Yeah.
And so I decided, well, I'm going to debate it, and regardless of whether your listeners, how they feel about the topics, what I wanted to do is I wanted to compare access to abortion to having slaves.
Okay.
And so what I did is I would keep going back and forth and say, okay, is slavery good or bad? Oh, it's bad. It's terrible. And it would give me, and then I would say, well, is abortion good or bad? Oh, abortion, it's good because it gives freedom. And so I go, but I said, but the people who had slaves thought it was a good thing,
Sure.
And then it would come back and say, well, I wasn't prepared for that.
Really? That was his answer?
Yeah, I should send you, I kept the transcript,
Okay.
But the point is that what people have to remember about AI is it's only going to be as good as the people who do the work behind it.
Well, and I think what you're saying is it's still pulling the data behind the fact that the current perspective is that slavery is bad.
Yep.
But it's not necessarily actually making a decision because
it can only base it on inputted material.
Right.
And now I do think you're going to see some interesting things coming down the road. One of the big areas that we deal with is the role of AI in elder care.
Okay.
They're talking, like right now there was a story, I don't know if it was New York Times or the Wall Street Journal about in elder care they've been creating robotic animals to comfort people, especially people with onset dementia and so forth. And it's raised all sorts of interesting questions.
My first question is, how much is a puppy? That would be my first question.
How much is the puppy? Actually, we had. I
guess
one.
they don't. You don't have to take it out. I guess that's the win.
Yeah, well, that's what I like. It doesn't make a mess.
Yeah, yeah.
But we had somebody had given us one of these robotic puppies, and I actually saw it in a picture in the article.
Okay.
So they're cute. They purr and they rub against you and that kind of stuff.
Is this just like a stuffed animal?
Well, that's what it looks like. Well, remember when you would go to the mall and somebody'd have these little trinket dogs, barking, and then a few steps. They're like that, but a little bit better.
Okay.
But I personally, I didn't care for them. Actually, there's very interesting things on the horizon that are coming.
Can this dog know if you're sad, or is it that good?
Right now, no.
Okay.
Yeah. But they do have an actual robot that is supposed to be sensing emotion.
You wear like an Apple Watch and it sees if your heart rate goes up.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it does. It's supposed to be reading. See, well, there's and I deal with this in the biotech course. There's just all of this information coming together about facial technology, facial recognition technology, and then you've got the ability to store large volumes of information. Right now, I just provided a report to my board that they used human DNA a few years back to store information that you used to be able to store on a hard drive.
Okay.
And
it was like petabytes, right? Or some crazy number in like single strand of DNA or something, right?
Yeah. And a human strand of DNA is about 6 feet long.
Yep.
But you're right. It's like 600 times a terabyte.
Right.
Okay. Well, now they just reported last week the discovery of fern DNA. That's the longest DNA strand. It's like 380 times the length of a human DNA. Okay, now start imagining, because there's predictions that we're going to be running out of space for storing everything.
Sure.
So you can now have this huge volume. Because see, I'll tell you where ANI is going, that's going to be controversial.
I like how you use the word ANI.
Well, where it's going, it's not A and I, is it? Where AI is going.
Well, I was thinking you were talking about sort of like, because I think that's going around a lot is we use the word artificial intelligence a lot, and it's not really artificial intelligence. No. So that is actually a term that goes around as AN, like the letter N, ANI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and what they're talking about doing now is when you get into what's called transhumanism, the idea of downloading consciousness and so forth, what they're trying to do now, they just completed a project for Holocaust survivors where they stuck them in a room for 3 days. Every day they had to wear the exact same outfit, and they pummeled them with 2,000 questions. And they answered them. And now you can go into this Holocaust museum, and I can't remember where it is. You can go in there, and you can call up, a fellow who was in the Holocaust, and you can ask him questions. And it accesses it. It's like a conversation.
Sure.
You're talking with him. Well, now they're talking about, with quantum computing, the ability to massively accelerate things, that you could start downloading consciousness, and then you could start having conversation. So we could be talking to you.
And then storing them on ferns.
Yeah, storing them on ferns.
Got it.
Yeah. So, and of course, maybe somebody would be the stink flower. I don't know.
Yeah, we're no longer going to have data centers. We're just going to have ferns.
Sure, so if greenhouses.
Yeah. If the fern dies, then the data goes with it.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and actually, that's the other part is that DNA, preservation of DNA data is like thousands of years compared to like hard drives, USB drives, solid state drives. So you can see my interest in technology has gotten me deep.
Yeah, I pulled up a page to kind of go over some of this. So ANI is artificial narrow intelligence, which is I think where we're currently at. So so ANI is actually a very accurate representation of where we are. So it's kind of that sense of weak AI is another term that gets thrown around a lot.
And the weak AI is what I've heard a lot.
Right. And so I think it's kind of that same thing. And then there's sort of artificial general intelligence, which is that next step. And then super intelligence, which is that sort of theoretical spot where they can actually make decisions and and change things and have free will and that sort of thing. So, and I feel like it's kind of like the way HD was or anything else. We throw these terms around, right? People just hear the word AI and they're just like, oh, the computers are going to like make decisions and they're going to do whatever, right? And we can obviously see proof that when you actually ask AI questions, they're not really making decisions. They're just going out and finding out what the general consensus of a thing is and then sort of regurgitating that. And they can kind of format things in a nice way to make it look good. But a lot of times that's all they're doing. If you ask AI to make a logo or make a thing, it's just so busted because they'll take a whole bunch of things and try and merge it into one thing as much as possible. And it just looks really weird. And so there's definitely the sense that if we're in AI, it's definitely that sort of first stage of very, very narrow or weak version of it.
And I do think, I mean, as somebody who teaches bioethics, people are always asking me, well, where do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, and I think we're going to see the point where it does do some decision making. The only thing is that we have a tendency to be very sci-fi about it. So we see it as like this inconquerable, like separate species or something. I mean, you got to remember it's going to have,
It's still a computer program with.
Right, but it might be very, like you and I use computer programs that are in some ways smarter than us and that they know everything. They like I when I go into Wikipedia, and I want to learn about John F. Kennedy. There's going to be things that are going to come up on Wikipedia I don't know. So in that sense, it's smarter than me. So I do envision the future or strong AI having massive amounts. Especially if you can start, putting it onto Fern DNA, having massive amounts of data. But at the same time, the problem is that mathematics is kind of ruling the game right now. So all of life is an if-then clause.
Right.
So when it programs AI to be decision making, it's really just like when you driverless cars. They're really if-I clauses. That's all it is.
Right.
Or if-then clauses. And what I'm suggesting is that what makes human beings very peculiar is we have this thing called impulse. I mean, I've been working with you for 20 years, and over the 20 years, there have been times where I've called you up about a tech issue. We'll talk about it, and you'll say, "Well, I know it's going to be this way or that way, but I just got a feeling that that just got a feeling."
Right.
Is what's going to be immensely difficult, if not impossible.
Right. To recreate somehow in a computer.
Yep. Yeah. It's just going to struggle at that.
Yeah, I agree. Because there's almost a, and it's hard to say, but you almost like run all the scenarios in your head and then come up with like, hey, I think we could do these 9 different things, but I think this is going to be the best one. It's going to pan out, whatever. And you're adding all the variables together. Not that a computer couldn't do that, but yeah, I do think there's going to be a sense of free thought.
Yeah.
And knowing almost like how the world works. There's almost like I don't think people are going to like that. Sometimes you're just like, that doesn't feel like the right answer because I don't think people will appreciate that or like that. That I don't know that you'll be able to teach a computer.
Well, and one of the most annoying things about technology is when it feels the need to help you when you don't want the help.
Yes, that's the worst.
That annoys me something fierce because, they'll make subtle changes, like we joke about Microsoft coming out with a little change, but it wasn't broken. Why did you fix it?
Yeah. I was doing something the other day. We're looking for some new medical record software, which the nomenclature is always EHR or electronic health record, right? Everyone uses that, but I'm in Word typing that out, and it just keeps replacing with her, and I'm like, stop, please just stop. And I did it like 9 times, and I literally had to go into the dictionary and be like, I have to add this in there because it's like you're wrong, and I'm like. I corrected it. So it went wrong. I corrected it, hit space, and it corrected it back again. I'm just like, what are you doing? Why? Like, how many times in a row do I need to change this so that you know that I'm not just spelling it wrong? Like, I didn't spell it. It's a 3-letter word too. Like, give me the benefit of the doubt here, computer, that I can spell a 3-letter word, and I'm not just changing this for the sake of being ridiculous. So it's things like that. So
well, and computers, technology, and everything. First of all. What an incredible invention computers are.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is wild. And then the idea that you can carry around massive data. Now, I was one of the first guys to have a color laptop. And I remember I'd be in the airport, and I literally would have a crowd behind me.
Really?
Because I'd have my laptop open. It was a compact. I had the laptop open. It was in color. I felt like a cool guy, all that kind of stuff. But people got, excited about that. And, of course, nowadays, people don't even think about that. It's not a big deal.
So what's the next? So do you think AI? So obviously that was a long time ago, and you were like ahead of the curve by having a color laptop then. What do you think that is now? Do you think AI is that next thing to be out ahead of now?
Well, certainly the media wants you to think that, and they're really pushing it. I mean, to some degree, it's happening already. When you go onto Amazon and you go to make a purchase, automatically something's in there saying, you could buy this cheaper on eBay. Or, Capital One's got a little thing that they can throw in there. And so they're always trying to help you. They're always trying to do it. I do think, if I were in charge of product development at a tech company, I think I would put a big emphasis on learning the way we talk normally.
Okay.
Like you said at the outset, where sometimes you get when your casual conversation
Blur some stuff together.
Yeah. In other words, I think learning that would be incredibly helpful, so that you can have more voice command. I mean, I would love nothing more than to walk into my office and basically relive a Star Trek episode. Computer on. Just start saying, please give me this report, that report, this report. I'll tell you, dealing with my bank is a nightmare because they still seem to be using 1980 or early 90 technology.
Yep.
Even when you deal with them, they're always telling you, well, we got to wait. It's still calling it up. And I'm going, what century are we in?
Yep.
So I do think you're going to see a lot more instantaneous, a lot of emphasis on speed and so forth.
Sure. Well, and AI is in everything now. We're getting physical buttons for Copilot on Microsoft computers. That's already rolling out. You can pick it. I don't think it was maybe a little bit extra, but not a ton.
Yeah, it's gone from being spoon-fed to being force-fed.
Yeah.
So you've got to do it.
But I think it's one of those things where we're just like, what is this that we have, and what does it actually do for us? Because I think we throw like the word cloud gets thrown around, right? What on earth does cloud mean? It means nothing. It means that I took your servers from your office and put them at my office, and that's the cloud. That's in a nutshell. That is the cloud, right there.
Yep.
It's not that the servers went away. We just moved them and called it something else, and everyone was like, I have to have that. And it's like, okay, well, you bought a server for a couple $1,000s and used it for 10 years. Now you're paying that in a quarter because someone else is putting it in their data center for you, and you think something's different here. And it's just, I worry that people have like misperceptions or conceptions of what AI does, and they jump on look at NVIDIA stock. It's gone crazy. People don't even know what they're buying, but it's just like, oh, this must do something with AI, and they have something to do with it. So let's get on the bandwagon.
Well, and I think, as an organization, the Christian Life Resources we're a resource. So that means that we have to find information. We have to study information. And so technology for us has been, it's a long shot for me going down to the Wauwatosa Public Library and having to ask the lady at the front desk, I need all the articles on this bioethical issue.
But AI can help you with that, right?
Well, AI can help, but I mean, even just Wikipedia, even just being able to research and then compile. Like, for example, another thing I use that I find immensely valuable is a program like Evernote.
Okay.
With Evernote, I'll look up articles because I used to, probably back when you and I first met, you would come into our office and there were just a lot of file cabinets. We had the verticals and the horizontals, and we're always trying to, and then you keep it all organized. Well, I have one file cabinet. It sits in my closet. I haven't opened it in probably 2 years, because you just don't use it anymore. Everything gets electronically filed and recall. I have another program, because of our religious background. There's a program we've got called Logos, and Logos is an incredible.
I think I would pronounce that Logos. Is that really how you pronounce it?
I don't know.
Reference? Okay.
I don't know.
I feel like that's what I've always thought.
It depends what country the guy is you're talking to when you call him for support. But I've got the program, and you can add files to it. You can do that kind of stuff, and you can do quick searches. It has reduced time spans.
Do you see things like AI getting integrated into things like Logos? I guess for the viewer, do you want to explain? Basically, it's a Bible resource software.
Well,
right?
Back in the old days, who's the guy that started? They had Danica Patrick did her commercials.
GoDaddy she was NASCAR.
GoDaddy, yeah. The guy who did GoDaddy.
She's an F1 driver. Was her?
Yeah. Well, GoDaddy, the guy who started GoDaddy, bought up a program called QuickVerse.
Okay.
And it was a Bible concordance program.
Okay.
Which is kind of funny because you go from marketing a Bible concordance program, and he had another one called Money Counts, which was bookkeeping, and then he's doing GoDaddy and Danica Patrick with the
very different marketing styles. Yeah.
And but I remember back then you could call him and talk to him.
Okay.
About things, and with QuickVerse, I really liked QuickVerse, and he had told me that he was going to be selling it or getting rid of it, and so I eventually went over to this very expensive program called Logos, and Logos is like a Bible concordance. You can type in love, and it'll tell you all the places in the translation that you're using where the word love is, but it can get far more complicated. Like in our church body, we have to learn the Bible in multiple languages. So, I can call it up in Hebrew and in Greek, Aramaic, German, Latin, and it allows you to very quickly do what used to take multiple volumes of books on my desk.
Yeah.
And I still have some of those books, and they too have been staying closed. Now,
but I feel like AI might have a place there at some point, right? Like, hey, right? Because it's kind of like getting past that word block or that writer's block thing, right? Like, I need to do a sermon on something. Like, give me some ideas, right? Like, and it might come up with some things, right?
Well, and what oftentimes, like we'll do, now on a practical level, I haven't used it for sermon writing. Where I have used it, however, is like I'll write an article. I'll have a 1,500 word article, and somebody will say, we really like it, but can you bring it down to 1,200 or 1,000 words?
Okay.
Which, first of all, I'm a preacher. That's hard to do just naturally. So what I'll do is I'll cut and paste that, and I'll put it into like ChatGPT, and I'll just simply say, bring this down to 1,000 words. And it will do that. And it'll bring it down to 1,000 words.
I'm guessing you still have to review it, right? Is it like you could just publish that?
Well, you could just publish it, but I never would do that.
But like you don't have to edit it. Like it's good. There's no flubs. There's no grammatical.
Oh no, there's always flubs.
Okay, that's what I mean. Yeah,
that's what I mean. You're always gonna. I could. They're coherent sentences and so forth, but they may not be the way I want it said. Sometimes it won't be accurate. But it is remarkable, and it is a great, idea starter. Like the hardest thing, like for me, writing an article or writing a sermon, is the opening.
Sure.
I could write for hours.
Yep.
But then I should just leave the introduction to the last because it takes me forever to get that figured out.
Got to get the right motivation to say the intro, right?
And AI helps you with that. I mean, because the way we'll do it, like even in staff, we'll say, just go into AI and say, I want to write a fundraising letter. I want to talk about our home for mothers. I want to talk about, the need for clothing. I want to talk about generational poverty. I want to talk about, you put in 8 bullet points.
Yep.
And then you tell it, please make this a 650 word appeal. And it'll do a really remarkable job. Actually, I got floored by my staff here a couple of weeks ago. My Home for Mothers staff sent me a letter they wanted to send out looking for volunteers. And I'm reading this letter, and it's like brilliant. And I'm thinking, who on my staff could write this well? Well, the answer was nobody. Because of what they did is, finally, Chelsea said to me, she goes, well, I took your advice. I plugged in these points and we just cleaned it up a little bit afterwards. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing too, is I think you can tell when something's been written by AI too at some level, and so we've tried it a little bit to do things here and there. And the thing that I struggle with is it doesn't sound like me, right? So I'm a little weird and quirky and things. You just read it and you're just like, this feels very like corporate, legal, rigid and stuff like that. And I'm just like, if I send this to anyone, they're going to get through the first 3 words and be like, Chris didn't write this.
Yep.
Like, which means it's just like, this might be just some e-blast thing. Like, it's not personal. And so I've honestly like done that, been like ready to send things. And I'm just like, no, we're not doing this. I'm just starting over. I burn the whole thing to the ground and write the whole thing because, and maybe I need to trickle things in like, hey, help me with the intro or something. And the rest is written. But I think that's an interesting thing is where is too much, right? What's that line between where is like it helpful and where are we just being lazy?
Do you know where it's going to be a problem, Chris? Is that
schools?
Yes. And when you get, with younger employees, I'm finding this, you probably are finding this now that you're getting old, is that with younger employees, you find that a lot of times they can't spell or they can't write a coherent sentence well. Right.
Yeah, everything is going to end up going through ChatGPT.
It will, and the thing is that, and for them it will be an improvement. But my problem is I do have a style. I have an approach that I use
right
because I have to dissect real complex issues, and I'm just not going to trust anybody to do it.
Right, exactly,
including a computer.
Well, and I think it's one of those things where you stop and you're just like, people do business with us, or they do business with you guys, or they work with you guys because of you, right? You're kind of the brand. And I think if things don't come out on brand, then they're just like, I could get this from anyone. I'm having a relationship with this organization because of I know who they are and that they care, and so there's like things that are sort of like integral to the brand that won't come out if you just rip something from ChatGPT and send it out, right? but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where that line is, and can we find a healthy relationship between.
Well, and probably the missing component that what I question will ever be able to be integrated into AI is passion.
Yeah.
You started your business, the passion of an entrepreneur.
Well, because something was broken, I saw something in the industry that I didn't feel like the companies, the IT people that I had seen. And it's going to sound bad, but I don't know that I found anyone that I felt really cared about, like their clients. Like, I think we care about our clients in the same way as if we were their businesses, right? So if someone calls and they're just like, we're down, in my mind, I'm down, right? Like, that's just, I just make the connection. I'm just like, we're down. What would I do if I was down? Like, I'm on, like, we're finding solutions. We're finding Band-Aids. We're like, hey, here's the band. This is going to work for 3 days because there's a third-party vendor that we can't get to do the couple things we need. So here's a solution that keeps you going. It's what I would do if it was my business, and that's what I would do if it was your business. And so I think finding that was hard for me. And so I was like, let's just do it, because then we can have that I'm looking for.
Which is also how we ended up with you.
Right.
I mean, we had experience. I mean, we had been, by the time I met you, we had been around for about 15 years. We had gone through, first of all, I did the tech stuff. It's interesting. How did I get away from doing my own tech stuff? Because I was putting in the token rings, and
Sure.
all that kind of stuff. And
All the fun stuff.
yeah, and but I had a professor, a friend of mine, who came over for dinner, and he had become a mission counselor out in California. And I said to him, I go, so what have you learned most about being a mission counselor? He goes, all these pastors, they went out and got themselves computers. Now they all want to write books. They don't want to do visits and counseling and stuff. And of course, I'm listening to him talk, and I'm going, that's exactly what could happen to me. I love technology, but sometimes you got to learn to stay in your lane.
Yeah.
And so I started hiring people to do tech, and you get people who stay in their lane, and you get people who don't. What's nice about you and I mean, you and I have talked about other things, non-tech stuff, but what's nice about when I've had CCA come out is people who just focus on this, so that I'm not the guru. I mean, I know enough in the office to be dangerous, but quite honestly, the mantra always is, well, I'll just call CCA.
Well, and I think you can help steer it, right? To be like, hey, here's the problem, or here's what I'm trying to look to find. You're still part of you're still part of the conversation, right? Of like, hey, here's a thing, I want to be part of this. And so,
well, my favorite conversation with you is, this is like 5-6 years ago, maybe longer, and I needed a new laptop. And of course, you know me, I'm trying to run Adobe, I'm trying to run Microsoft, I'm trying to run everything under it, so. And one time I spec'd out kind of what I was looking for, and you said, Bob, you do this, you're looking at a $2,000 laptop. Why don't you get yourself a refurbished one for like $400? He said, you told me you can go through these multiple times, and you've saved me a bundle. And your staff got somebody going yesterday on a refurbed laptop I got.
Yeah, you're definitely rolling the dice though.
Oh yeah,
on those, they're a big dice roll. I've definitely bought like a couple sometimes in an effort to find a good one, but yeah.
Yeah, we've been happy. Well, and I was talking to Juan, and he was saying, well, don't get anything less than an i7, don't get stuff like that. And so I've learned that, and I've learned most of it from you guys, and but the thing is that the whole business of staying in your lane is the problem I have is that I have such a varied interest level from home construction, elder care, bioethics, all that kind of stuff, and computers.
Sure.
That you end up being a jack of all trades and
master of none,
not good at any.
Yeah. Yep.
So having technology companies around to help with the work, I think is crucial. And granted, we're a small organization, but it has proven to be worth it. And but you also showed passion. When we shifted over to you, we shifted to you because you were passionate about, our problems became your problems.
Right.
But that's what you need. And going back to the topic of AI is, I just don't see it translating into passion. I see it translating into hard data, quick data when you want it.
Right. Yep. But I think then we also have to figure out as a population of like, how do we stay in the right lane with AI? I think that's a question that we really haven't figured out yet.
Well, yeah, was it yesterday or the day before? A guy had left ChatGPT, and another guy from, I think, the Gemini project, they formed a new company, and their big deal now is to actually try to create an ethical basis for AI before it gets pulled out. They said right now everything is, oh, we got a little problem here. It's got a bias. Oh, we'll keep working on it. And they're trying to do it. I'm curious, as an ethicist, I'm curious how they're going to do that because, right now society, nobody wants a basis. My opinion, that's what one of your questions was, what's changed is the veneration of opinion, even if it's a worthless one.
Sure.
Because today with social media and stuff like that, if I say I think that all the streets should be painted green, all I have to do is find like 3 other people who have the same crazy notion, and we've got a movement.
You probably could find way more than 3 people that like green streets. I mean, like,
yeah.
Well,
you're going to find Wisconsin.
Yeah, exactly. You'll find You'll find the same amount of people that hate the idea though, and they'll just completely go crazy for it. Yeah.
But it does, like the media, the internet, social media, and the internet, it does have a way of venerating personal opinion to the level almost of authority.
Sure.
And that's the one problem that I see with AI, and they warn you about it. Don't take everything it gives you as fact.
Yeah. Yep.
But people still buy into it.
They do. Yeah. I remember it was probably a year ago. I went to AI or ChatGPT or something, and I was like, write me a June newsletter or something, right? Like a current one. Like write me a June newsletter with things that happened in the previous month, right? And I tried a whole bunch of times. It gave me the absolute worst mess of whatever, and it was one of those things that you you send to your wife because you're just like, hey, this is just too funny that I can't do it. I just did the newsletter as is, and it was like, hey, last month, Elon Musk put something in SpaceX in the whatever, which SpaceX has been around for 5 years at that time, and it was like, it was so wrong, and it wasn't even in June. It was like 5 years ago in like February, and so I was like, you didn't pick the right month. You didn't pick the fact that it was the last 30 days. Like, I don't even know. This is so unvaluable to me that some of it, I do think if you just took it at its word and just published some things, you were just like, sometimes it's really bad and really wrong.
Well, if you want to do something fun to send to your wife, write something, and then stick it into like ChatGPT, and tell it rewrite this like Mark Twain.
Okay.
It is hilarious. I mean, I had to do that with a couple articles, and I sent it to Casey on my staff. And she thought it was the funniest thing, because you can do it. You can also say, write it like Walt Whitman. You can pick any genius or any doofus, and
interesting. Yeah. That's kind of fun. So what's next for CLR, Bob?
Well, my staff has been pressing me to more video clips. Shoot video clips. We want to get them out there, social media, that kind of stuff, and. I'm not. I always joke that I got a face for radio.
I guess we'll find out because this is on video.
This is on video.
Your staff will be able to tell for sure.
Yeah. Well, they want to come in, and even Jeff, part of we have the lifechallenges.us podcast, and it's Krista, Jeff, and I, and Jeff is really, we talked about going video on the podcast.
Okay. Yeah.
And we've been doing the podcast. It'll be 3 years in September.
Yeah, I was going to ask that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and but Jeff's like, no, I don't know. It's so.
It's a lot of work. So we did this recently. This is like maybe a month old or less. We're just like, hey, let's do this thing. It's kind of it could be fun.
And the thing is you've got the LED lights and all that kind of stuff. We actually have the equipment, everything but the cameras.
Yeah.
But we've got the boom mic, most of the stuff you need for audio.
Right. But you still need cameras. You still need HDMI. You still need switchers. There's a lot of stuff that once you go video, there's another level of things that go into that.
And then you need a producer back there, or somebody kind of
switching the shots and stuff. Yeah, exactly.
And and so it's more work, it's more intensive, and it's an investment. For you, it's an investment. You're going to do it. Very few people are going to use it initially, and then as time goes on, and so it's a little bit of a gamble. It is. So that's kind of how I view it. I think it's going to be valuable that way for us.
But I think it's one of those things where there's something about video that's good too. I think for us too, it was like I wanted something longer form. We were already doing video, so it just kind of made sense. But I like video because I feel like you can get a sense of the human thing,
That's why staff wants
je ne sais quoi or something.
One of my most common questions I deal with in the work we do at CLR is people want to know, do I put a do not resuscitate order on a loved one?
Yeah.
They're going in, it's a health crisis. And, so if you go on our website and you search for DNR or do not resuscitate orders, you're going to see all sorts of articles I've written on it. But the thing is that the staff feels, and they're probably right, that it would be so much better if I just sat in front of a window, sat in front of a green screen, and just spend 1 or 2 minutes explaining it.
You can come here whenever you want, Bob.
Oh, sure. We could do that. It's getting me to want to do that. That's the problem, It's,
We'll just come here someday, and you guys can have the whole place for the afternoon. You can just like 2-minute video after 2-minute video. We'll set you up here with a shotgun mic instead of one of these things. You can just
go for it. And we certainly, and because they've even said, prop your phone up there, just record that or whatever.
Yeah.
And what they want to do is when you go to the website, you can do that. Now, right now, I've just been asked creating some Bible study material, and I said I would like to upgrade it. Do you remember Harry Potter, the very first Harry Potter movie where they're looking at the newspaper and the images are moving in there, and I've always wanted to kind of imagine some Bible study, not handouts where things are moving because that's not going to happen, not without 3D clips or chips and stuff. But I mean, I do imagine sticking in QR codes, people can connect to YouTube videos, that kind of stuff. Something that people need to be more interactive. The other thing I think that's happening with computers is attention span is like short.
Yeah.
What I need to do is do it in 2 minutes or less. For video.
Yeah, I agree. So our general newsletters, we try to keep them around 3 minutes.
And I watch every one of them.
Yeah, it feels like a good time. But I think the other thing too is like, so we can talk about AI in 3 minutes here and there and stuff, but if people have more questions about it, like maybe they're worried about AI and they can watch some of these and be like, hey, maybe this AI thing we have right now, although I think we do need to be smart and wise in how we use it and whatever, maybe it's different than people are expecting, because I think the world is perceiving AI as something that it really just isn't right now. And that's that sort of ANI versus super intelligence thing. So I think it's good to be able to have some of those conversations. Are people going to watch it? I don't know. But if people are interested, at least hopefully we can kind of take that worry away from some people where they're just like, hey, maybe this isn't quite as scary, at least right now.
Part of the problem is that the marketing of AI is still primarily handled by media.
Yeah.
And so the media still has to work with sound bites because they're working with short attention spans.
Well, and they're still trying to sell something.
Yes. And
it's with HD was the same thing. It's the cloud. It's everything. Our customers would come to me just like, Chris, I want the cloud. And I'm just like, you don't. Like, it's more expensive. It's going to be slower, and you're going to have to buy
give them a bag
everything.
Of cotton candy.
Yeah, it's like your internet's going to have to triple because you don't have enough internet to do this. It's going to go down, and even if you do that, we're still not going to get gig. We're going to go to 100 megs instead of, so like, I think sometimes there's these buzzwords we throw out there, and it's like, hey guys, let's at least pause and do it when it's smart, and not just because it's a buzzword. And that's the thing I worry about AI is like, let's make sure that it's adding value to our lives and increasing the quality of the things we do, rather than just being like, AI, let's do it. Why? I don't know. Because someone said it's AI and it's the next thing, so let's jump in there. And I'm not saying we shouldn't either, but I do think we need to be cautious and smart and wise about how we...
And don't fall for the way it's done. I tell a story that in 1 week, I was on a live taping of a program. I served on a panel discussion, and I was in a television interview, all in 1 week. And they all got the exact same bio for me.
Okay.
Every one of them had it differently, and every one was wrong. Even though it was the same piece of paper, but it's because they're trying to shrink it down. They're trying to get it out there. So when they talk about AI, it's much easier to get people to think Terminator, AI. Either it's a dystopian view of Terminator,
right,
or it's this data off of Star Trek Next Generation.
Yeah. Yeah, like HD. What in the world does that even mean? We just say it because it's good, and people buy TVs then, and it doesn't have any actual definition. Is HD 1080p? Is it 720p? Yes. Is 4K? Is 1440p HD? Is that something different? And so it's just like, we use the word high definition. It's not really specific enough to say what that really means, and so, but it gets people to buy things. It gets people to do things, and so I think that's just my worry right now. Is I think AI might be at that stage where I don't think it's what we think it is, but I think they're trying to sell it in a way that will try to get us to spend dollars towards a thing that it is super, super helpful. But I do think that our perception, generally speaking,
I spend most of my life reading medical papers.
Okay.
And
sounds fun.
There's a rule of thumb in medical papers, and that is that if you're working on a new cancer discovery, the one thing you need to prove it is money.
Yeah.
And so,
and time probably just a really
and so what you do is when you write it initially, it has to sound so promising, so exciting, and everything. And I get that with technology. They do it, and of course, it's kind of like I just bought a TV for the place where we walk on the treadmill. Okay. And of course, you face this whole business of do you go with 160 megahertz, do you go 120 megahertz?
Yep.
Do you hertz and then do you want it high def? Do you want it 4K? Do you want it all this kind of stuff? And of course, in the end, do you know that when I walk on a treadmill, I have to take my glasses off? I have astigmatism. I'm looking at shadows. I mean, I don't care how high def it is.
It's just a green street, just like blob, just like one blob of
So people got to be real, and they just got to step back a little bit.
And I think it's true, because I think if you look at it, if you look at 4K or 8K on a TV, to even realize some of that resolution, you have to sit it has to be like an inch from your face, right? For you to actually realize the difference between HD, full HD, so call it 1080p, and 4K. It's just your viewing distance on a regular TV, not a projector or something.
And it varies with people. I got a TV for my parents, and my dad's goes for eye injections and stuff.
Yeah.
And they sit back, in the chair and everything. I'll look at the TV, and they will have it like some setting wrong, and it's fuzzy.
Yep.
And I'm going, how can you guys watch this? And my dad's, what's wrong?
Yeah.
So you got to kind of scale it for yourself.
You buy this really expensive thing because you think it's what you need, and then it's not even doing what you want it to.
No.
Yeah. Well, awesome. It's been great to talk to you. Is there anything else you feel like we should talk about? I feel like
we could go on a million topics.
AI. Yeah. Anything else? Anything else you felt like you needed to say today?
Nope.
No,
this is
nothing.
good. Other than if people want to check us out.
That was my next question. That's right after.
Our website is christianliferesources.com, and our podcast for us is Life Challenges, lifechallenges.us, and you can.
Is your podcast on the website anywhere?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you just do a search.
Resources or something?
Yeah.
There is a lot on your website.
Yes, there is. In fact,
not going to lie,
we're doing some work on even trying to change things around a little bit on it. There just was a meeting this week on it.
Cool. Yeah, it's the downside. There's a lot of data to get out there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I found it. It's all the way on the bottom. There you go. Life challenges.
Yeah. Well, and if you recall, you helped us archive the old data, the old website.
Yeah.
Because we had so much stuff on there, but that's the problem with being a resource is, we're trying to let people find. It's amazing how many people still will contact me and they'll say, "What can you tell me about infertility treatment?" And I'll go, "Well, what did you find? What didn't you find on our website?" I didn't know where to look. So we're trying to get past that stuff.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot, and those are one of those things where AI might help actually, right? Is like, show me all the things about infertility on this website, right? And that honestly would maybe give you like a really good summary of some of the things, right? So I think it has its value. It's got some cool stuff, but let's not oversell it, right?
Yep, right.
Let's not call it something that it isn't. Well, Bob, it's been wonderful to have you here. Look forward to maybe having you on the podcast again. We don't have that many guests, so we're going to have to just like rinse, repeat.
Sure, recycle. We'll talk about something else later.
Talk about something new. Yeah, something else will change with AI. So, so find them online, christianliferesources.com. Go find their podcast as well and listen to that. You've got 3 years. You're on episode 100-something now, right? I looked. So lots of good data there. But thanks for being here, and we will wrap this one up. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you, everyone, for making it this far in the podcast. If you're hearing this, you are a diehard fan, making it all the way to the end. So thank you very much. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And here's a couple of videos that YouTube might think you'd like as well. So go check those out, and we'll see you guys on the next podcast. Take care.